2022 is coming to an end, and I'm sure a lot of you are making your favorite movies of the year list. Now, I'm not going to be making one of those lists because I feel like I just haven't seen enough 2022 movies. I've only seen about 30 of them. So I didn't want to make a list when there's still so many movies that I've yet to watch. Instead, I'm going to make a list of my favorite first time watches of the year. So in order to make this list, a movie must meet two criteria. The first one is that it must be a movie that I saw for the first time this year in 2022. The second thing is that it must be a movie that was released in either 2021 and before. So no movies that came out in 2022, no movies that came out this year are on this list. These are just any movie prior that I watched for the first time this year. And these are my favorites. So here's a top 10 list of my favorite first time watches of the year. So coming in at number 10 is a movie that I watched back in January, so really early on in the year, but it's a film that was released in 2021 and was actually a Best Picture winner, and that's Coda. So I really loved Coda. This is a movie that really gave a voice or a platform to a community that doesn't get a lot of recognition, and that's the Coda community, the child of deaf adults. And the highlights for me of this film were, of course, Emilia Jones, who I had never seen before, and she was amazing. I really bought into her performance. Fantastic job. And of course, the actor Eugenio Derbez, who I sort of grew up watching every now and then on television as a Mexican myself. He was a very popular actor and has also made his way into more of American film and television. And I think he's hilarious. I think that they had a really an awesome dynamic in the film between he was her teacher and she was a student, and they just had a great chemistry together on screen. Coda really was a beautiful film. Really appreciate what the filmmakers were going for here. So Coda, awesome movie. Number 9 on this list, I actually own the trilogy, but I decided to go with just the first one, and that is the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, of course, I saw this for the first time in 2022. Many people grew up with this, and they have a lot of nostalgia attached to it. I myself do not, but I still enjoyed it very, very much. It's a fantastic adventure movie, directed by one of the all-time great directors in Steven Spielberg. So I don't need to talk too much about this movie. I'm sure I was in the minority of people who have not watched it, but I'm glad that I finally did. And looking forward to now seeing the Indiana Jones 5 when that comes out. Number 8, a movie that I do not own, but I was able to watch on HBO Max, I believe. And that's Edward Scissorhands. Yeah, I had never seen Edward Scissorhands, but I thought that it was just a beautiful story. And of course, Johnny Depp just puts on a great performance, transforms himself into the character of Edward Scissorhands. And just the makeup, the detail, the costume design, the set design was just all perfectly done. Usually not the biggest fan of Tim Burton, but I really bought into this story and I was a really big fan of it. I think that also this would make a great 4K. I feel like just the colors of the neighborhood would really pop. HDR would really add to this movie. But that's just a side note. Of course, Johnny Depp was the highlight for me here. It had heartwarming moments, funny moments, just great movie. I highly recommend it, although I'm sure many of you have already watched it. Number 7, a movie that I can't believe it took me this long to watch, but that is Heat. And this was directed by Michael Mann, who I am really becoming a fan of. Of course, I've now seen this film, Collateral. What else does he have? But I'm sure another great that I'm forgetting, but an all-star cast. I mean, you cannot go wrong. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, just a great cast all around. For an action movie, there's not a ton of action.
Well, for me, the action is the juice.
But when the action comes, it really hits hard, and you just edge of your seat action. And of course, the disc, I would recommend buying the physical disc if you don't own it. For the sound design alone, the audio is really a highlight during the action scene, during the heist scene. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But those bullets just whizzing by. If you have a decent setup, you're really gonna enjoy Heat on physical. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. If you're like me and you've been living under a rock, check it out. Number 6, I can say this for all of them. I can't believe it took me this long, but better late than never. Better late than ever. The Graduate with Dustin Hoffman. I love this movie. I want to upgrade to Criterion during the next sale, but this was a fantastic movie. I really, really enjoyed the performances by, of course, Dustin Hoffman and the other actress who I'm blanking on her name right now, but Catherine Ross. I thought she was great in this as well. A really interesting movie about a young man played by Dustin Hoffman who recently graduated college, and he doesn't really know what direction he wants to go in life. He doesn't really know what he wants to do, and he runs into a family friend, an older woman who is married with a daughter, and she tries to basically seduce him. And at first he resists, but eventually they become entangled.
Holy entanglement
is what I will say. And during this entanglement, things get a little out of control. Let's just say that he meets rather a girl that he's fond of. And I don't think this is a spoiler, but minor spoilers maybe. He meets someone that he's fond of, and this girl just so happens to be this older woman's daughter. So things get very interesting. There are some moments that I feel like they didn't age very well. Like I don't feel like this movie could 100% be made today, but it's still great. Check out The Graduate. I believe it was nominated or won best. Okay, so yeah, it was nominated for 7 Oscars and won for best directing. Number 5, we have a Stephen King adaptation, a film directed by John Carpenter. That's Christine. This was an amazing movie. It's probably my number 2 or 3 favorite John Carpenter behind Halloween. And this one and The Thing can kind of interchange depending on my mood. But it's a very atmospheric movie based on this teenager named Arnie Cunningham who comes across this car named Christine, and this car just is like some sort of entity that somehow like begins to seduce him or hypnotize him or something. Not quite sure. I don't think that Christine's abilities are really explained. I don't recall right now at the moment, but he starts to kind of change who he is, starting off as this quiet, nerdy kid, gets bullied, starts to kind of transform into like this kind of like bad guy, rebel, starts being a jerk to his best friend, that kind of guy. So, yeah, Christine basically goes around on this rampage, getting revenge on people who have hurt Arnie. A lot of connections between this and Halloween Ends. In my eyes, in my opinion, I feel like Halloween Ends had maybe some inspiration from Christine. A great watch during October for me. Coming in at number 4, a movie from 1995, and I believe is also a Best Picture winner, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Braveheart.
but they'll never take our freedom.
Now, I can't believe that I had never seen Braveheart, but I finally corrected that. This is a fantastic kind of like revenge tale, kind of like a love story, war epic. Mel Gibson just does a great job. It sucks that he kind of fell off for a while there because he's a little bit crazy, but he's a great actor and a great director. I really am a fan of his work. But the costume design here, the set design, the action sequences are all top of the line. I really, really enjoyed this movie, and the score is phenomenal. The cinematography. This movie is a straight 5 out of 5. I mean, it's It's a near perfect movie in my opinion. It's a little lengthy, but you don't really feel the runtime in my opinion. It's just a great watch, and I'm sure I was probably the only person on the planet who hadn't seen Braveheart, but I finally did, and I'm glad that I did. All right, guys, we made it this far. If you're still here, I appreciate you. If you're still watching and you didn't skip ahead, I appreciate you. Or even if you did, it's all good. I still appreciate you too. But coming in at number 3, this is a movie that I watched for the very first time in December, this month, as I'm recording this. That's Black Christmas. This is a Scream Factory edition. And this movie was released in 1974, so before Halloween, before John Carpenter's Halloween. Now, this movie at the time, I feel like it really pushed some boundaries with some of the like graphic or vulgar dialogue. For a movie that doesn't show a lot of gore, it was very disturbing. Basically, it's just this group, this sorority, who is living in a house, or they're of course in a sorority house or something like that, and they're getting ready for Christmas. Some of the girls are leaving to visit family. Some families coming in. So chaos during the holidays, and they begin to get these strange calls, and it's like this weird voice behind the phone who is just making threats and shouting obscenities over the phone. And of course, at first they think it's a joke. They go to the police, typical, they don't believe them, and weird things start to happen. Girls start to go missing, and they try to get to the bottom of it. Police get involved, and it's a very well directed movie, very atmospheric, very eerie. And even though, again, like I said, not too much gore, I can see why maybe some people wouldn't like it. If you're a fan of horror, you want to see those kills. This movie doesn't really have a lot of that. But if you're just in it for the ride, and you're just in it for, that suspense, that unsettling feeling, this is a great movie. I really liked Black Christmas. My number 2 favorite first time watch of 2022 is a movie from 1944. So took me quite some time to get around to this, since it's been out for decades, but Double Indemnity, the Criterion 4K edition. So this is a movie directed by Billy Wilder, and it features Barbara Stanwyck, Fred McMurray, who have great chemistry on screen. But this is about this person who sells insurance, and he's trying to of course go around and meet his quotas, do his job, and he comes across Barbara Stanwyck's character, who, I don't really want to get into too much detail because I feel like I would spoil it. There's just so many twists and turns here, but this is a quintessential film noir. If you're a fan of film noirs, I'm sure you have seen this, but if you haven't, I would highly recommend checking this out. I actually recommended this in a recent video where I gave Criterion recommendations. This was on there. So like I said, so many twists, so many turns, great camera work, cinematography, acting, dialogue. You're on the edge of your seat. 5 out of 5 movie, 5 out of 5 film noir. Highly recommend. Okay, so my number 1 might be surprising to a lot of people. I feel like this is a movie that a lot of people out there would consider just dumb fun, popcorn flick, and rightfully so. I agree, but I still think it's great. So number 1, Tremors. Now I'm blanking on the year that this came out right now. Probably like very early 90s, late 80s. Let me know in the comments. I just can't think about it right now. But this stars Kevin Bacon, Fred Ward, just 2 fantastic actors. And this is very simple premise. It's just monsters that live underground and they're trying to eat you and you got to run away. And that's basically it. But it's a fantastic movie. Such an entertaining movie from start to finish. Only 96 minutes long. So it's just a simple short watch. You can throw it on anytime. And it's funny. It's scary. The creature design, for the time, I feel like was way ahead of its time. I was able to watch some of the special features on this Arrow edition, which they really dive into how some of these scenes were shot with the creatures using miniatures. And I highly recommend this version if you don't own it, the Arrow, because the special features alone are worth the price. But yeah, like I said, this was a first time watch, of course, and it immediately just became one of my favorite movies that I know I'll be revisiting for quite some time. So that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you for watching. Those were my top 10 favorite first time watches in 2022. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, thanks for watching, and let me know what are some movies that you watched for the first time this year that would be some of your favorites. But yeah, guys, thank you again for watching, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.